Oh, buddy, Andy here again. Well, I'm sure we're all sick to death of hearing all the news that's gone on this week about the internet and Wikipedia blacking itself out, all in protest against the now hopefully defunct bills, the SOPA and PIPA bills that were going to be put through the US Congress, I believe it was. But one thing about that I will say before I move on is don't be fooled by the fact that just because the sponsors of these particular bills have decided to at least leave them be for a while and maybe rewrite them because of all the protests that have gone on. So well done to everybody who did actually stand up, whether you be Wikipedia or personally, or whether you're one of the sites that sort of took yourself down or made a statement, or you were a person who called your senator or congressman or whatever, because it's because of the power of the people that these laws have been put back for a while. But only for a while, I expect. A battle has been won, but I don't think the war has been won. These will come back, believe me, in one way or another. And if you think, oh, can we, Andy, but you live in the UK, I'm sure if you haven't heard already, okay, these laws may be coming in or possibly coming in the US, but it doesn't mean that it won't affect everybody else. The internet is a worldwide thing, the World Wide Web. You know, it's called that for a reason. We can interact. You can watch this video in the US or in Australia or Indonesia or anywhere because of the internet. So we don't want that to go away, and that accounts for any other country that decides to bring other things in as well. Hopefully they might have learnt a lesson. But one of the things that's come out, and you look at the Kodak example this week as well, because I did a couple of blog posts about this type of thing and I put links to them down there. The second one was about Kodak and what had happened. As a sort of it shows you what can happen with some of these companies who don't take notice of what's going on, because ultimately that's what all this comes down to, in my opinion. All the bills that were being sponsored, the lobbying that was going on, was being done by the big media companies, the movie companies, the TV companies, you know, the music people as well. They were trying to stop what they think is piracy. And yes, I'm quite happy to admit that something may well need to be done, and there is piracy out there and people are trying to get things for nothing. But one of the reasons that people are trying to get something for nothing, or at least trying to skirt around what restrictions are put in place, is because those restrictions are there in the first place. If the companies, the media companies, were more forward thinking, more innovative, and actually looked at this from and realised the potential that they've actually got there, and they may well have missed the boat in a lot of this and they're trying to play catch up, but if they could still try and stop this to a certain extent, the reason that people go online and download movies or download music from illegal sites like Pirate Bay and Mega Upload, which has now disappeared, is because a lot of the time, it's not the only reason, I know, I'm not that naive, but one of the reasons is because you can't actually easily access that yourself. Now, one of the things that I've got a list of things that I've written down here. A couple of these that I may have mentioned before, but one of the main things, as I said, is that if you can't access something and you want to see it, and you see something being talked about in the press, in the media generally, and especially as we're watching videos, etc., and we can access information from across the world, if you're hearing someone talk about a brand new movie and you can't see it yourself, they're provoking all this interest, and you see someone on a chat show that you might watch from America or Australia or something like that, and you're interested in that movie, you can't watch it, and then someone comes along, well, if you go to this site, Andy, you can actually see that. That's what people are going to do. What needs to happen is a fundamental rethink from these media companies and make things easily accessible to everybody. Yes, pay for them. It's been proved so far that if people can access things, they will pay for them. Not everybody, but one of the reasons that people have got so used to not paying for things is because the media companies haven't thought this through. It's because they've been obstructive. It's because they're trying to put laws in place. They put barriers in place all the way along the road so far that other companies, unfortunately some illegally, have come along and allowed other people to have access. So in some ways it's the media companies' fault that this situation now arises, but they've still got an opportunity, as I said, to change things, to try and do things properly. One of the things, as I've just said, release dates for especially movies. Now, why don't movies come out in the worldwide release on a certain day, the 1st of February or something, the brand new blockbuster film? It comes out across the world all on the same day, and on that same day, why don't they make it available to buy or to view, to stream or whatever online for a certain amount of money, so that you haven't actually got to go to your multiplex, which a lot of people haven't got. Here where I live, we don't actually get to see a lot of the movies that are out there. The big blockbusters might come along in certain cinemas, but a lot of the other films that I see mentioned on the radio, the TV, and you read a magazine and this film that's really good, I can't see it. It's not. If I would have to travel 50, 60 miles possibly to go and see that particular movie, now, am I going to bother to do that when I can click on the link on the internet and watch it for nothing? No, I haven't done that, but if I wanted to, that's the avenue I would have to go down. We realise now that people are lazy. People have got this tool, they've got this window into the world, and they're going to use it. And so why don't the media companies think about that? I'm sure people, I would think, well, yeah, I'll pay my money within reason. Don't make it stupid, guys. Be sensible about this. And then I can actually stream it here and watch a film that has just come out. Okay, maybe you can leave it for a couple of days or something like that. If the cinemas can't cope with it, that's not my problem. That's somebody else's problem. They would actually get more money back in the long run as well. But I think the only reason they do this and sort of stagger the release is because of the celebrities that go along and sit on the couches and the award ceremonies and that. Movies are released to a certain date because they then come in the catchment period for the Oscars or the Emmys or the BAFTAs or the Golden Globes or something like that. That whole system has got to change. If you want people to access things and do things properly, a fundamental rethink needs to be done. And it's the same with DVDs as well. If you do that, a lot of films, we don't get the DVD till later or something like that. That's fair enough. I understand that. That's a physical product that you can then own. But even they're staggered. It might be released in one country on a different day to this country or something. Why is that? Music is similar. I don't think it's quite as bad as it used to be, where an album would come out in America and it'd be like a couple of months down the road before it came out in the UK or the rest of Europe or worldwide or whatever. It still happens to the same extent, but the same sort of thing there. Why not to release everything on the same day so that I can access it? And why have a site like Amazon.com in America, which I can't buy things from, but I have to wait until they come to amazon.co.uk or whatever, and wherever you live, it's the same. Once again, if you can't access something and everybody's talking about it, and you can maybe even hear it on the radio, you're going to go and find another way to get it, and quite often that will be free. So once again, a thought about that type of thing, because if you think about it now, even with music, we have music now, we've got all these sites that we can download music quite legally, and the growth and the rise in digital music buying has probably even surprised some of the big major record companies. But even then, they were dragged kicking and screaming into it. I think they put a lot of barriers in place, and it was only when someone like Apple came along and produced the iTunes and the iTunes store and everything and forced record companies into it. That was the big game changer. It wasn't the record companies that said, oh, look, let's make this stuff available. It's because a big company like Apple came along and changed the game, and everybody else is playing catch up. These companies, the media companies, the record companies, probably could have controlled this if they'd have wanted to. I'm glad they don't, but once again, it's their own particular fault. Another thing that I've mentioned before, if I buy, even if it was streaming a movie or something like that, especially with a CD or a digital download of an album and a book as well, what they should do is, if I buy the CD, I should get a link where I could then download the equivalent album for nothing. And if I buy a digital album, a complete album, there's obviously a problem if you're buying individual tracks, but if you buy a digital album online for a certain amount of money, you should get a free copy of the CD as well. Maybe it will cost a little bit more, but I think most people will possibly, or you can have an option whether you do that. The same with books as well. If I go and buy a physical book in a bookshop, I should then get a free link, a little bit of paper that allows me to go on to wherever it might be and actually download the ebook of that as well. Now, that's a radical thought, but why not? Because what I've got sick of, and one I'm sure most of us have got sick of, is with the change in technologies that I've had to buy particular albums or particular books, but especially albums over the years. I've had them on vinyl, I've had them on CD, I'm now buying them on MP3, I might have had them on cassette and all this stuff, 8 tracks and all these cartridges and all that sort of stuff. Why, if I buy it once, should I then have to buy it again? You've got your money once, you're being greedy by expecting me to buy it again and again and again. So there you go, and it should be radical. Think about these things and actually change things in that way. Make it easier for everybody to get these things. Make it more fair as well, and then people won't feel that they're being conned, I think is the proper word actually, and then they won't feel the need to go and try and get these things for nothing. There will always be a small minority of people who will try and get things for free, but there are people who go out and nick these things from shops and supermarkets and that anyway. You're never going to stop it. It's just, it's, you know, if it's there for free, people are going to do it. But I would rather have a proper copy. As I said, since the iTunes and other services have come along, I've quite happily bought real music legally. I don't think I've downloaded anything for a number of years now that wasn't legal, certainly not music anyway. Because it is there, it's usually better quality, you know the files are safe and that type of thing, and most people are sensible with that type of thing. And as I said, if the youngsters have got used to the free way of doing things, that's partly because it's been encouraged. Look at newspapers and things like that who are now trying to play catch up. They've given their content away for free. So many other people did. They didn't see, once again, the writing on the wall. They gave it all away for, oh, let's jump into the internet. This is the next big thing. We need to be there. We need to do that. And they didn't think it through. And then suddenly they realised, oh, hang on. Nobody's buying our products anymore. We need to think about this. And then they try and put up paywalls and people trying to go around them, and they stop buying the physical papers or whatever it is. As I said, too many companies like Kodak have thought that they were too big. They didn't think this was going to take off. They've been trying to control it because they got used to controlling the way that we consume media and we buy media or any sort of products. The digital world is a big game changer. It's not going to go away. It's only going to grow and grow and grow. And these companies, as I said, have still got a chance to keep going, and if they innovate and they adapt. But if they don't adapt and they don't innovate, they might end up like Kodak and end up dying away or trying to legislate their way out of this, and that won't do them any good at all, because there'll always be a way around it. You know, a lot of people will rise up and moan and everything like that, but there will always be a way around it, and who wants that type of thing? They've still got an opportunity. So, you know, this is maybe a question for you media companies. Why don't you do that? Why don't you try and work with the people who do the consuming? Take some ideas like mine and other people's as well, and actually think about it that way and do something about it. Now, hardback, I've just realised I've written down there about books as well. Hardbacks versus paperbacks. Why do you need both? Why when a hardback book comes out, do I have to pay a different price for a digital download of a book when it's exactly the same as when it comes out, when it's in paperback 6 months down the line, but it then becomes half the price? It's the same product. It isn't the same with a hardback book and a paperback. They are two separate products, but a digital download is a digital download. In that respect, it should be the same price all the time. You're missing a trick again, guys. But there you go. A little rant over, but hopefully, I'd like to know what anybody else thinks. But hopefully some people might take some notice of this, but I'd like to know what your thoughts are. If you've got any other ideas on this sort of thing, maybe you totally agree with disagree with what I'm saying, should I say. But anyway, there you go. Yeah, media companies adapt or die. The stark warning there. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.